first question is a basic one. In the first 2 minutes that you get, please introduce yourself to us. Let us know what you would like to know about you, and just introduce yourself. Oh, and one more thing, as candidates, if we've got the one mic that's working, so if you would come to the mic to speak to the public, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Richmond County Democrats. For those of you who don't know, I'm Johnnie Cordero, and most of the people who know me know that I'm a fighter. I've been a fighter all my life. I don't know how to do anything but fight. Recently, our Congressman, the Honorable Jim Clyburn, noted in an email entitled "The Return of Jim Crow" that we must fight, and we must fight back. I agree. Republicans are boldly, intentionally turning back the clock on civil rights, and South Carolina is ground zero, don't forget it. Republicans have absolute control of the government in South Carolina, and this fact does not bode well for our future or our children's future. They are daily chipping away at our rights, the right to vote, the right to send our children to schools that teach the truth about America's past. They want to return to an horrible past when we could not vote and lived as second-class citizens. They have made women, once again, second-class citizens without the right to control their own bodies. Don't let anyone fool you. One senator with courage and determination can win and can make a difference. But it must be someone who is willing to stand and fight. We need a person who will not back down, who will not go along to get along, who cannot be intimidated, and who cannot be bought or bossed. Now more than ever, we need someone on our side who has a proven record of fighting for fundamental fairness for all South Carolinians. If you entrust me with your vote, my seat at the table will be your seat at the table. I will keep you informed as to what goes on and seek your advice on every important move I make. I will be your eyes, your ears, and your voice at the table where decisions are affecting our lives and livelihoods are made. I will fight for every dollar that our district is entitled to. I will ensure that every program and opportunity available to any district will be available to the citizens of District 19. I will make sure that state agencies serve our communities with the same professionalism and quality. We can increase their time as well. Professionalism and quality service as our communities are served. We are not your being rude, sweetheart. Just a moment. We are not second-class citizens, and we are not going to live in second-class communities. Forgive me for the approach of time.
Ms. Divine.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I know a lot of you in here, but a lot of you may not know who I am. I'm Tameika Divine. I'm a former member of Columbia City Council, but most importantly, I'm a wife, a mom, a community advocate, and someone who fights every single day to make sure that people are represented, heard, and respected. A couple things I just want to share with you in my introduction is, as I mentioned, I'm a former member of Columbia City Council, and so I have experience. The experience to make sure that all voices are heard, that communities are represented, that when you call your elected official, they show up, and not only do they show up, but they're willing to roll up their sleeves and get to work with you and for you to make sure that every need that you have is addressed. I also have leadership experience. As Mayor Pro Tem, I've worked at the City of Columbia. I've represented the city on the state level and the federal level, making sure that our money, our federal money and our state money comes back and is invested. And most importantly, I have the proven experience that without a doubt that when it comes to getting stuff done, not only can I have an idea, but I actually can get it implemented. As a member of City Council, I was the first person to stand up and say, recognize we had a game issue, enforce that we get a game study done, and then implement programs in our parks to make sure that our kids have things to do. As a mom, I'm very concerned about our education. And so as someone who has the ability and has the experience, not only of working with people across the aisle, but also getting things done, I can be nice when I need to be, I can be aggressive when I need to be, and I also make sure that if there is an idea that needs to be brought forward, I'm going to do that. As your next state senator, I look forward to working with you and for you to make sure that the needs of District 19 are represented. That whatever it is, and I've had the experience of working with our senators to make sure that if we have an idea, that we get the funding and we get things done. I've written legislation, I've helped pass legislation, and I know how to get things done. And as your next senator, I look forward to working with and for you. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Kambrell Garvin. I currently serve as a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, where I've served for the past almost 6 years. Let me tell you, before I go any further, I want to take a moment to simply recognize my friend and my mentor, Senator John L. Scott Jr. Senator Scott served this community for over 40 years, 33 years as an elected official, 18 years in the House of Representatives, the seat I currently hold today, and then another 15 years as a member of our state Senate. Senate District 19 has a rich history that in 1984, where I.D. Quincy Newman was elected as the first African American to serve since Reconstruction in the state Senate. And he served for 2 years until his health gave way. After that, Senator Kay Patterson, a person that I know many of you all know, served in this seat for over 20 years. And he served our community and continues to serve our community with great pride and with great strength. And then, as you all know, Senator Scott came in 2009 and continued to carry forward the banner of leadership. And you know what? Every time throughout history, there's a time where the baton has to be passed. And Senator Scott has passed the baton to a new generation of leaders to continue the work of those leaders that have gone before us. As a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, I know how to get things done. I'm not telling you about something that I've heard about. I'm telling you about things that I've done. I know how to pass bills. I know how to work across the aisle. I know how to get things done, especially as a Democrat, where we are in a super minority, Rep. Johnson, where the only way that we get things done at that state house is through relationships. So we had a senator that had 30 years of experience, and what I would say is this: we can't go backwards. And so whoever is going to replace Senator Scott, there will certainly be big shoes to fill. But allow me to say, let us not go back to day one, and let us go with somebody who has experience to get the job done. Thank you.
My name is Javar Juarez. I'm the Senior Director of the Broad River Area Business Alliance and the Allied Partnerships. For the last 5 years, I have been boots on the ground and in the trenches of the community, actually moving programs and resources in the private sector to help us actually move our community forward. I have been the foremost data analyst in the Midlands, sourcing over $1.1 million worth of resources through the private sector to help people be housed, to put people back to work, to spearhead small business, to ensure that we have viable communities, pushing against zoning and planning that is unfavorable and allows toxic industry to move into our communities. I've been at the State House. I have over 1,300 hours of testimony and listening to the leaders in the State House while we see that the state is bleeding out to the sum of $40 billion, with a little over $25 billion to cover our costs. Right at this time, we need over $14,400 from each and every one of you to be able to get ourselves out of debt. So the politics that we see in the State House, they come from the need to gerrymander the process, because there are very few resources when you have an abundance of corruption, when you have departments that people who argue politics have never stepped foot in their door to understand who they are, what their position is, who's working under them, to read the accountants' footnotes, to understand the independent auditors and accountants that actually take the time from the taxpayers' money to actually have an account of where that money is. And yet we as Democrats rarely call it out on the floor when we talk about money. Instead of politics, I'm following the purse. Because when we talk about programs, when we talk about things that we want to fund and finance, you got to pay for it. And I'm trained by the wisdom of the elders to follow the money.
I run 5Ks for a reason, and you kind of help me out. The next question was posed by more than one person, so I definitely want to bring that forward, and it's to all the candidates. What is the biggest issue facing District 19 constituents? And what is your plan to address this? In other words, what is the biggest issue? And what is your plan to address the issue? We will start this question with Ms. Divine and then go inward.
Thank you so much for that question. And I will tell you, there are a lot of issues. So it's hard to say biggest because I think there are a lot of very important issues, but I would say the biggest issue right now, or the one that can be tackled and go throughout District 19, is the investment in economic development. You know, we have an ability in District 19 to make sure that we have resources that are invested in the community. So whether you're on Broad River, you're on North Main, Farrow Road, or all the way down to Wilson Boulevard, we have the opportunity to invest in our community and make sure that we create jobs, high-paying jobs. We make sure that we support our infrastructure so that it can sustain the growth. With Scout coming up to the Northeast, it's going to bring lots of jobs. It's also going to bring lots of development. People have to have a place to live. People are going to have a place to shop. They're going to have to be able to have places so we can invest and spend our money in our communities instead of going somewhere else. And so we have an opportunity to really look at the district-wide. It's a huge, vast district with lots of needs, but we can universally throughout the district make sure that areas of the district are represented or invested in so that we can be represented and have small businesses, that we can have businesses that have our needs. And then in addition to that, we need to make sure that we have smart growth. Just the other day, you heard that the Scout currently had to stop construction for a minute because of environmental issues. We need to make sure that environmental issues are on the forefront as well. And when we look at our district, we have to make sure that environmental justice is at the front. We got to make sure that as things are developed throughout our district, that they're done not at the expense of the rest of the community. And so that is something that I would work on. I have worked on. I've chaired the city's Environment and Infrastructure Committee. I've also worked on this nationally the cities for economic and community development. And so I'll bring that experience and that expertise to make sure that we are having resources to invest in economic development throughout District 19. Thank you.
There was an article published recently, maybe a year ago, by the state newspaper, or maybe in the Post and Courier, that talked about the 29203 zip code being the sickest district or the sickest zip code in the state of South Carolina. The highest diabetic amputation rate, the highest blood pressure, so many issues in regards to healthcare disparities within our community. Every year, since I've been elected to the legislature, I have introduced a bill that would expand Medicaid, that would give folks an opportunity who don't have access to health care, an opportunity to get into health care. There's something called a coverage gap, where many residents within this district, they don't make enough money to qualify for the Affordable Care Act, but they fall into what's called coverage gaps. And so many of our constituents fall into that gap. And so that bill has, unfortunately, given that we are in a super minority and standing committee, but we've fought for it. We've talked about the importance of it. Economic development is also important. Scout Motors currently sits in my house district, and Scout Motors also sits in District 19, the Senate district. And what I will say is Scout Motors was something that the General Assembly did in conjunction with Richland County. The General Assembly, and I voted on this, approved $1.3 billion to bring Scout Motors to Richland County, to bring it to South Carolina. We want to ensure that those dollars, those economic dollars, don't go everywhere else, but that they stay here in our community. We want to make sure that our students are getting the jobs or getting the education that they need right now in our public schools to be able to go to Scout Motors. We know everybody won't go to college. That doesn't mean that they can't have good paying jobs. So I think that ensuring that our kids get a good education to work those jobs is going to be great and very important. Thank you.
Read off these notes because this is a lot. How do you keep money in your community when you don't manufacture anything? They're lying to you. The system is lying to all of us. The very same tax incentives that the State House gives to large corporations, how come we can't get those same tax breaks? When we don't even manufacture the grease that we put in our scalp. So how are you going to have during the Greenwood era where the dollar in our community circulates 8, 9, 10 times around. You're not going to be able to do that because you don't manufacture anything. All the things that come into our communities, they come from the outside, they come and absorb what's on the inside, and then it goes back to the outside. It's impossible for you to be able to keep money in your community and top economic development when the people do not produce. And the same tax incentives that they give the corporations must be given to the small businessman, because contrary to popular belief, a majority of the jobs do not come from the corporate industrial complex. It comes from the mom and pop stores. 99.9% of the jobs that are created in America come from the small businessman. How do we hire people with complicated backgrounds when they find difficulty being able to find a job in the corporate industrial complex? Because once you get a felony, guess what? You push to the brink of society. Our state housing agency right now is derelict in their policies, and that 9-member commission board appointed by Governor McMaster. The reason why I'm always on the news talking about a food desert is because everybody thinks it's just we hungry. No, we get food. We know how to survive. But without having a grocery store within a 1.1 mile radius, it's difficult for us to be able to use the tax incentives provided by the IRS through the state housing agency to build more secure housing. Without having appropriate housing, you cannot have economic development. You cannot have healthy families. You do not have healthy children.
Albert Einstein once said that if he had a serious problem to solve and he had 1 hour in which to solve it, he said he would take 55 minutes studying the problem to come up with the appropriate question, and when he had the question in the last 5 minutes, he would solve the problem. This is what our problem is. Each one of these who have spoken, all these such as people who know their stuff. And they're absolutely right. Their observation of what is wrong is accurate, and you know it's accurate, as have all the other politicians. So what's the problem? The problem is very simply this. You now have a trifecta, a Republican trifecta. That means, for those who don't know, that they control the governorship, they control the House of Representatives, and they control the Senate. So what is the question? How do we get all of these things that they've identified, how do we get them done in this climate? It's very simple. You need a health raiser. You need someone, remember this, very important. Back during the 60s, what were they doing to keep civil rights from moving forward? They were filibustering, they were passing resolutions, they were doing everything they can to make sure that nothing got through. Damn it, if you send me to the House, to the Senate, that's precisely what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight them in every way I know how. I'm going to make sure that your interests are satisfied no matter what they say. Because guess what? The greatest politician in the history of the United States was one Adam Clayton Powell from Harvard. You know what Adam Clayton Powell did by passing more legislation than anybody else in history until today? He went into Congress and he passed what he called the Powell Amendment. And the Powell Amendment was one sentence. And what that one sentence said, any money that goes out of this house cannot go to anybody who practices discrimination based on race. We need a hellfighter. We need somebody who is going to give them hell so that we will get our fair share of the pie. It's not that the pie is too small. It's the way it's divided up. Please remember that.
Thank you for those responses. The next question is actually a few questions that piggyback on what some of you have stated, so you'll see that shortly. But the next question is about businesses, and this is the question. The St. Andrews Democrats did a survey, and two of the consistent concerns were, one, a plethora of businesses that we don't need. Examples, title loan, payday lending, vaping, etc. And a lack of businesses that would strengthen our community. Some of you have kind of addressed this already, but if you would, how would you address these issues, both getting rid of the type of businesses that we don't need and getting more of the businesses that will be great for our community. I will start this question with Brother Garvin.
Thank you. You know, I think this is a great opportunity to talk a little bit about the difference between being a state legislator versus dealing with local level issues. Oftentimes, zoning ordinances, certain businesses that come into communities, those come from county council. Those come from city council. And so at the state level, oftentimes, we don't deal with who can move into a certain community or what businesses can be open. And we're dealing with state level issues. And I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience dealing with those broader state level issues. But I think the question brings up a really good point, and that is that there are issues in regards to certain predatory lending companies coming into our community. And I think as the state senator, what my job would be is to facilitate conversation, to work with the local government partners, to figure out how do we change ordinances at a local level. So I want you all to hear me clearly. I'm not saying that as a state official, while we don't directly address those particular issues at the State House, we have the ability to influence what happens within our local community. There have been times where I've gone before Richmond County Council. If ever called upon, there will be times where I go before Columbia City Council if needed to advocate for certain things within our community. So I think it's really important that folks understand that distinction. And I'll also say this, so bills, as you all, I know many of you all know, bills have to go through both the House and through the Senate, okay? So when that happens, no matter what comes through either body, it's really important that the senator and the House member are working together. And what's something that Senator Scott did that I thought was really effective is he brought together Team 19, the House member, the senator, the county council person, because he believed that we all should be pulling in the same direction. So if I had an issue, I would go to my county council member to help me get those things resolved. Thank you.
If I gave Republicans as much credit as this panel gives them, I would be broke. I had no choice but to listen to the wisdom of the elders to help me understand the system by which I was navigating in. I spent a vast majority of my time learning the industries that exist in South Carolina, understanding Ms. Glenda, the lobby, sending more than 1,600 letters out to multiple levels of government, and I know I got an amen in here. To understand exactly the processes that are keeping our communities in a derelict state, that are keeping our community in a degraded state. Democrats have a lot of power in the private sector, and I'm proof of that. I'm proof that the private sector moves politics, and we can short-circuit Republicans because the private sector drives what? Politics. There's more than 24 families that really bring all of the power into the State House and control the Republicans because they keep their coffers full. And yet we make up a vast majority of the consumers that are in our communities, but because we're not producers, because we haven't been given the opportunity to produce, because so many people in our own party do not know how to connect the private sector investment system to members of our community so that we can manufacture, we get payday loans, we get the liquor stores, we get Rose Gold nightclub, we get the vault, we get all of the things that I continue to fight against every day at every level of government. Because we have an M1 zoning designation that allows toxic industry to short-circuit the grassroots organizations and businesses that bring healthy, vibrant businesses that serve our bodies and our financial interests. I'm not into giving Republicans any more credit. I'm going to short-circuit their coffers and make sure that we are connected to the investments that they rely on.
Whoa! How do you get rid of them? You know how you get rid of them. First of all, you don't patronize them. That's number one. You starve them out of existence. That's how you get rid of them. But the other thing, and this is what senators do, they make sure that everything that they want, they short stop. That's what it's all about. The name of the game is kick them in the ass. The name of the game is keep them begging for what you have. And guess what you've got? No, it's not the money. I agree. It's not the money. What you have is the vote, the power of the vote. They told me it would take $100,000 to run this campaign. I don't have $100,000. I don't know anybody who has $100,000. And I wouldn't know how to get my hands on it. My point is what? My point is that the $100,000 they think will buy you the vote. I'm not buying your vote. What I'm saying to you is that if you put the right people in the right places, you will have the change that you want. Payday lenders get here. You know, in most states or many states, payday lenders are illegal. It's called usury. They're out here, but let me tell you something that you can do. And it's not illegal, it's absolutely honest and true. Here's what you can do. If you happen to be with a payday lender, don't pay him. Oh, I ain't gonna do that. Don't pay him, he's gonna come after you. No, he's not gonna come after you. You know why? Because the law also says that you can't sue somebody on a post-dated check. And guess what? Every check you write to a payday lender is a post-dated check. Get your money, do what you want to do, and move on. Guess what happens? They'll close on and take care of their business someplace else. That's what you gotta do. You gotta learn how to fight. And you gotta fight the way everyone else fights. And here's what I'm saying. And I'm saying this real quickly. What we have to develop is a military mindset. Remember that I'll talk about later. Remember that. A military mindset will solve all of our problems.
Thank you, Mr. Cordero. So, a few things to the question. Number one, it is very important that we do know what the position that we're electing, what it does. And so certainly there are things that you can do to zone out bad businesses. As a member of City Council, we worked really hard to make sure that we were addressing payday lending and title loan companies. The county did not follow our suit, but we did do that, so you see less of those in the city of Columbia. So you do have, on the local level, ability to zone out bad businesses. But in order to get businesses that you want, you have to look at what will attract those businesses and incentivize those businesses. One of the things that people talk a lot about is grocery stores. Well, I've met with grocery stores and I've talked to them about what it will take to get to certain parts. They look at certain things. They look at their bottom line. They look at how many rooftops. They look at the income in the area, and they look at whether or not they will have the business to patronize their business. So how do you incentivize that? If you can buy down the cost of renting here, like Scout, like other things that the State House actually does incentivize those businesses, why can't we incentivize the businesses that need to go in our neighborhoods? Why can't we have those ability to make sure that they're recruited to our communities? And so that's how you get businesses that you want. In addition to that, you need to make sure that the ancillary things of the businesses that will attract them, that they're there. So when we talk about having rooftops, we talk about income. How do you incentivize and make sure that you have housing developments that are mixed income? And so when they're looking at income in an area, that they know that you have the income that's necessary to recruit those businesses. So those are some things on the state level. You can have incentives, you can have tax incentives, but most importantly, your senator, again, I said, work with you and for you. Just because it's not within the purview of the senator doesn't mean the senator's not in the area and working with you all the time, making those connections to the businesses, working with your city and county council members. I have a long record of working with people on all levels of government, and I'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. You just never know what responses you're going to get when you ask questions. The next question is an audience question, and it is simply, who is your political role model or mentor, and what have you learned from that person that has helped you on your journey? We will start this question with Mr. Juarez, and then we will come back around.
Oh, have mercy, Lord. I should have wore a little short set or something. It was the year 2009 when I stopped being an angry black man. It is because of a black woman named Dr. Barbara Sizemore.
who was a foremost American educator. And then Dr. Francis Cresswell Singh and Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the ancestors that have gone on. Because when you find somebody like me who is more in line with the elders within the community that I stand, who everybody thinks is so saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost, but they don't realize that the elders are divergent. The elders are still radical proof. The elders are still willing to let you have it. They wanted me to stand up in it. So my mentors are the members of the community that didn't let me starve when I came here with just $50 and turned that into 4 different corporations. My mentors are my elders, and that made sure that I could get a phone call, Miss Regina, when I was sad when somebody was being shot and I didn't really know what to do. And the wisdom of the elders in the community, they became the voices in my community, that became the voices in my head that told me to keep on going, because the people that look like you are setting traps for you, and you keep going because the people that look like you are digging ditches, and you keep going because what you're doing is fighting a good fight to make sure that you dig out poverty to drive down crime. And don't you give up, young man, because we believe in you, because we know that you can make a difference. It's the people in my community that I look up to, because every time you turn around, they're faced against something that would take them out. Their back is against the wall, but yet they find a way through. Whether that's the chili beans and rice or filet mignon, we find a way. And today, that is exactly what we need, is one another. So I look up to the elders in my community.
That's a complex question and a long list of people. Well, I'm telling you, in case you don't know, I'm 75 years old. I'm 75 years old in October. I've been around and I've been taught by everybody. And I'm talking about some people that we are quoting in school who I actually knew. Stokely Carmichael told me, I said, Stokely, what is the best thing that we can do to get ahead now? This was in the 1970s. He said 3 words. I said, what are they, brother? He said, organize, organize, organize. I mentioned Alvin Clayton Powell, who was a senator, a congressman from Harlem, okay, who went to Congress. When he went to Congress, he was the 2nd congressman after Reconstruction. And when he got to Congress, he had the other congressman who was there at the time, he brought his lunch to work in a brown paper bag. Why? Because he was not allowed to go into the congressional dining room. He was also not allowed to swim in the congressional swimming pool. You know what Adam did? And this is in Adam's book. By the way, I was married, my first marriage, my second marriage, I was married by Adam Clayton Powell's chief of staff. And we talked many hours about Adam Clayton Powell. He said that what Adam did was, he said, Adam got on the phone and called up and said, everybody in Harlem, everybody, the biggest, blackest people he could find, he called them up and said, hey, come on down to D.C., we're going to lunch. He walked down and they walked into the dining room. The maitre d' told him, sir, you can't come here. Adam Clayton Powell said, I am a congressman of the United States Senate. These are my guests. Get me a table right there in the center. And guess what they did? They got a table right there in the center. But my greatest inspiration, who I talk about all the time, and people say I talk about too much, is my grandmother, who taught me. She said, son, you're always, always bless the bridge that brought you across. No matter what. She said, as long as they make the rules, you're going to lose the game every time. So what? Learn the rules of the game and play them against them. And that's what you've got to do. Because every law that's written is written with a loophole in it. And that loophole is for them to get out of. All you got to do is find the loophole and you will get out yourself. Military mindset. This is war. The only people who don't know we're at war is us. When we start thinking like military, not violently, but thinking about military, observing the architecture, we can win.
So I agree, that is a very tough question. I'm one of the beliefs that you're always learning. You're always seeking out mentors. You're always seeking out people with wisdom. Because when you stop learning, you stop living, you stop being effective. And so over the course of my public service career, and I'll say I don't consider it a political mentor because to me it's not about politics, it's about the people, and it's about the communities. And so when I think about my mentors or my people that I look up to in quote politics, it's the people who are public servants. It's the people who are working very hard all the time. Names that you may not know, but you know their work. You know the things in the community that they've done. You know that we have education systems that are better because of them. You know that we have safer neighborhoods because they have gotten up every day and raised heck because the things in their neighborhood are not right. You have people that you will never ever know, but your life is better because of them. And so I consider those my mentors, and I can write off names. I think about Ms. Catherine Belfield and Ms. Pearl Fogel, who still lives on Arsenal Hill. And I go and I sit and I listen to her, and she tells me about the segregated Columbia and how Ward 1 was there and what happened when USC decided to come there. But every day they have fought, and now that Booker T. Washington has been restored, there's a Ward 1 memorial or museum to teach us about Ward 1. And we may not never ever know about Ward 1 if it weren't for those things. So those are my political mentors, people who don't worry about getting the credit, they worry about doing the work. That's something that we have all got to think about, and that to me inspires me every single day to get up, no matter how tough it is, no matter how much people might say it's hard at the State House, it's hard to do this. I get up every day inspired because those people never thought it was hard, they knew it had to be done, and they were willing to do it.
God bless you.
As a little boy, I would go down to Marion, South Carolina, and I would sit in my grandfather's local funeral home. My grandfather owned the funeral home for over 50 years down in Marion, and he was the first African American to sit on his local city council. And one thing that he instilled into us is that if you are unboxed, then you can't be unboxed. And he talked about the importance of economic development, owning your own stuff, being able to own your own business, because you don't have to answer to a boss who can control your paycheck. And that inspired me to start my own law firm a year ago, because I wanted to be able to own my own business. I wanted to be able to never feel as if, and this has never happened, but to always feel as if I could be independent in making my own decisions. And I'll say this. About 6 years ago, I went to the Elmwood, on the Elizabeth on Elmwood, and I sat down with a gentleman by the name of Senator John L. Scott Jr. And I said, Senator, I'm in law school right now, but I have a desire to serve, and I want to run for the House of Representatives. He said, well, Garvin, you're young, but I think you can do it. And he said, I'm going to support you. And he said, I don't ever want to hear about it again. That's the kind of person that he was. And he did support me. And he said, when you get to that State House, I want you to be your own man. I want you to be able to make your own decisions. I want you to be able to look at the issues for yourself. And that's the kind of person that he was. He brought together the leadership within our community, a community or a community of leaders that had been divided, where the senator wasn't talking to the House member, the House member wasn't talking to the county council member. He brought us together and formed Team 19 because he believed that we could do more together. He believed that we were all pulling in the same direction, instead of pulling apart from one another, that we can make progress. He had unfinished work, and I hope to be able to build upon the senator's legacy as the next state senator from District 19. Thank you.
Some of you have already alluded to this question, but it is one that I think more than one person has asked in so many words. We know that a critical piece of being a senator is advocating for your constituents. However, you will be in an environment where the majority of senators are Republican and either somewhat or very conservative. How will you thrive and work for your constituents when other senators may have conflicting views? We will start this question with Mr. Cordero.
That is a great question. and simple to answer. You gotta deal with the reality, you find it where it is. The trifecta exists. You can't wish it away, nothing's gonna happen to it, so what happens? That means that you have to be your own person. You have to be a fighter. You have to go in, come hell or high water, we're gonna fight, and it's not gonna make any difference to me whether you like me or not, because guess what? I'm the senator from District 19, and I am here to represent the interests of my citizens, our citizens, my friends and relatives in District 19, and I don't give a flying, you know what, on a galloping goose, what you think, because I'm not here to become a senator. I'm not here to carry the title of senator. I'm here because my people believed in me and gave me their vote and sent me to go and fight for them. And that's what I will do. And that's all you can do, because guaranteed you will not change their minds. You don't change their minds, you kick their behinds.
Thank you so much for that question. And I think that's the reality of where we are in. But I think if something is worth getting done, it may not happen overnight, but it takes tenacity, it takes somebody with strong will, it takes someone who understands how to get things done. And so, as the senator for District 19, when there are issues that need to be tackled, we address it head on. You go in prepared. One thing I will tell you that people will tell you about me, I always go in prepared. When I go into court, I'm prepared. When I go into a community meeting, I'm prepared. When I go into my kids' school, I'm prepared. And so I make sure that you have prepared and you're educated about the issue. And then you find commonalities. One thing about being a local elected official, at least on a municipal level in our state, they're nonpartisan races. And so it is so much that you can get done. I've learned how to work with people who say they're Republican, but we can find commonality on how to get things done. And so I've done that over my years of public service, and I would do that as a senator. You have to figure out how to make the story. Every single issue has a story behind it. So it's about people. There are people from District 19 who need and have an issue, and you bring those faces to the issue, and you make sure that you're educating the folks on the other side. This year we saw a very bad abortion bill get passed, but it could have been worse. It would have been worse if our 5 female senators did not say it's not about party, it's not about race, it's about an issue about health care, particularly for women in the state of South Carolina. And they worked together to make sure that they got the further worse bill not passed. And that's what you have to do. You have to figure out how do you build coalitions, how do you get people on your side, and it may not happen overnight, but it will happen over a couple of years if you have the information, you have the education, and you're willing to see people as people and not as a party.
I think this is a great question, and I think that this is what this election will come down to. For the past going on 6 years in January, I would have served as a member of the South Carolina General Assembly. For the duration of my time of service, Democrats have been in the minority party. Just this last year, for the first time since Reconstruction, Democrats are now in what's called a super minority. That means that the Republican Party can do whatever they want to do without even Democrats showing up. So if we didn't show up, they could have a quorum. If we didn't show up, they could pass every bill. That's why it's very important that we send a senator to the State House who has the working relationships. It's important that we send a senator to the State House because whoever gets elected, and we have some fine candidates up here, whoever gets elected is going to be the 46th senator out of 46. Okay? So they're going to be in the back room. And the way the Senate works is it works represented by seniority. So we need to send somebody to the State House who can, number one, have the relationships to work, who can, number two, work to build seniority to gain influence for our community. Okay? Again, I'll mention it again. Senator Scott had over 33 years of experience in the General Assembly. Senator Patterson had over 30 years of experience in the General Assembly. They both came from the House because they had the relationships to get things done. I'll tell you, sometimes it's hard walking into that state capitol. Not standing in the lobbying, but walking behind the closed doors. I've done both. I started out in this community as an NAACP activist, being in that lobby. And I'll tell you that without relationships, without being able to go and seeing how the sausage-making process works, without being able to have the ability to get money in the budget that benefits our community, we're going to be in big trouble. So I encourage you all to consider sending somebody to the State House who has the experience to get the job done. Thank you.
That boy got a good time.
I remember when I was on a phone call when Sister Margaret Sumter was coming into power as the chair of the Black Caucus, and Representative Johnson was on the call, and everybody was involved in all this fervent, high-end debate about what should have happened, what we could have did, what we would have did, and all of those other kinds of things. And he said, you know what, I want you all to do me a favor. Keep that same energy and bring your behind on down to the State House. And so what is a senator without people? And the reason why we are the minority is because we have not been able, as a collaborative, as a collective, to prepare our people. And so as a senator, I can stand up there as I have in the education subcommittee, as I have in commerce, as I have in the judiciary, as I have at every opportunity that I possibly could. I looked around and said, where are the people? What is a senator or a representative without the people? Republicans ain't scared of nothing because they say, oh, look at those Democrats. He's standing by himself. The sister is standing by herself. They standing over there in the corner by themselves because we are not preparing our people. They don't understand the process. They're not involved in the process. They don't understand their rights. We have not done well to make sure that you understand that you can download the South Carolina Legislative app and understand when the meeting is taking place so that you can schedule to make sure that you're there to stand in the gap for your children, so that you can come to the meeting that you need to come to when they ban in books, when you can come to the meeting that you can come to, when you need to argue on the floor for yourself. Without the power of the people, the State House can't move. And that is the truth. I'm running as senator because I've spent the last 5 years preparing the people for this time.
We have just a few more questions. This one comes up fairly regularly when there is an election or the famous election that is just passed, and it is about communication. One fairly consistent concern, notwithstanding all of our great elected officials that are here with us, notwithstanding you, is that we hear from elected officials and see them during election season, but we don't see or hear much of them once elected. So if you are elected, what communication will you do? What communication will you do both to keep your constituents informed and to get information from them? So it's about communication. We'll start this question with Ms. Divine.
Thank you so much. Communication is key, but communication has to be both ways. It is receiving information, it is providing information. As an elected official, I routinely had newsletters, I used social media, I made sure I had open houses, because number one, you have to make sure you understand the constituency and how they get their information. Earlier today, I was requested to come to a meeting of seniors. Those seniors were not going to come here. Those seniors do not watch the online shows. What they do is they want you to come and sit with them and explain something. And so I came here at 5:30, I left here to get there by 6, I sat down and I explained things to them. As an elected official, I've routinely done that. I've met people in their homes, I've had open houses, I've done town halls online, And then during COVID, if anybody watched, I made sure that I was online and I had Zooms to let people know what the city was doing. And so as your next senator, I'll make sure that communication is two ways, that you have a way to get in touch with me. I always make sure people have my cell phone and that they know they can call and text. I always make sure that people have my email address, but I'm also always out in the community. And one thing I will say, it's not about during election time, because I haven't been elected for 2 years, but I've still been in the community. I've been working every single day. Folks have said they've seen me more than most of their elected officials. And that is why I continue to be in the community, because that's where we get our information. And lastly, I'll just say this Saturday, I'll be presenting at League of Women Voters about the same topic, communication with your elected officials. Why do they ask me when I'm not an elected official? Because I have the record of when I was elected official, I was the most accessible and gave the most communication, and they've asked me to make a presentation to their body. To me, it's not about what someone will tell you what they do, it's about what they have done. I continue to stay engaged, I continue to stay encouraged, and I make sure that people get information. Thank you.
There's a saying that says out in Team 19 or District 19, oh, we do work. And what does that mean? You can find us giving away food. You can find us giving away Thanksgiving baskets. You can find us during the pandemic hosting COVID-19 drives. So I think that it's really important that we talk about a little bit about how demanding the job of being the senator is. Last night, I went to 5 different community meetings. 5. And guess what? They all started about the same time. And so literally it went from meeting to meeting to meeting, talking to folks in the community. And guess what? I just didn't start doing that in District 19 when I decided to run for Senate. I've been doing that for the past 6 years as a member of the House of Representatives. My constituents will tell you that they receive an annual legislative newsletter telling them what is happening at the State House. My constituents will tell you that they receive a legislative manual every year. They'll tell you that they receive regular correspondence in regards to what's happening at the State House. And as a state senator, I will continue to attend those community meetings and talk to the folks right where they are about why that bridge isn't fixed this time. I'll continue to go to the community meetings to talk about how can we encourage young folks to do things a little bit differently. I will continue to work with our community partners, our neighborhood presidents. When we announced our candidacy, many of our neighborhood presidents stood with me because they knew the work that we have done. There's an old song that goes, may the works I've done, may they speak for me. And that's what I'm standing on in this race, that the works that I have done will speak for me. And I'm not just talking about what I will do, I'm talking about what I have done and what I will continue to do as a member of the state Senate. Thank you.
May the service that I give. Oh, I know the song. And I also know that if you give a man a fish today, he'll eat for today. But if you teach a man how to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. I want you to know a personal fact about me that I normally don't tell folks, but I'll let y'all in on this one. In 2018, I gave up my disposable income as an insurance agent to build a digital infrastructure because I understood that the one thing that this community was struggling with was a lack of information. All of the things that we built did not exist on this road. We had churches that were doing a lot of wonderful work, but even they were disconnected from each other. They didn't know how to be able to move information in an internal apparatus that let us be connected to each other. So I established the Broad River Business Alliance, and then I partnered with the Google Foundation, and then I partnered with the AARP. If you've taken my AARP class, raise your hand. Which is meant for people who are 55 and older to learn how to use basic technology so that they can begin working with these children. Because these chaps are able to pull off things and get by Big Mama now and get across Grandpa and get across Auntie because don't nobody know how to use the technology. We can't be everywhere. I burned $10,000 worth of gas over the last 36 months, and that is no lie. I can't promise you that I'm going to be everywhere all the time. I ain't God. And I ain't even gonna try to stand in the gap as God. But what I can tell you that I've done is even my current campaign website is a resource. It has every zip code. It has all the census work. It has the issues prevalent in the housing. It has issues related to SCDOT. You gotta train people and prepare them to be able to access the tools that they already mandated to do with Social Security. That they already mandated to do in the DSS system. You already got to have an online account and a password if you're going to get your benefits.
Communication is part listening and part messaging. People who don't like people need to stay away from politics. If you want people to respond to you, you have to show people that you love them. It's as simple as that. And I ain't talking about patting you on the back, sister, and kissing you on the cheek. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making my telephone. I'm sorry, brother. I didn't mean that. I want my telephone number available for you. I want you to be able to call me anytime you want to call me. I'll tell you a quick story about a friend of mine who worked for Representative Joe Neal. And here's what he said. He said when he first started working with Joe Neal, he said Joe Neal left him, was leaving the office, and Joe Neal left him, and there was a pile of letters on the desk. And Joe Neal said, go through the letters and figure out which ones I need to answer. He said, I don't know, listen, I'm new on the job. I don't know what are you talking. He said, you'll figure it out. And guess what he did? He went through the letters. Everyone he found that was from a lobbyist, he tossed it. Everyone he found was a constituent, he put it on Joe's desk. And he said Joe would be up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning calling people back because you sent me here and you gotta be able to communicate with me all the time. It's easy if you want to do it. Remember, people do what they want to do. I don't care what they tell you, they do what they want to do. The second big part of it is messaging. Messaging is real simple. I'll put it to you this way. You want to get young people in, you got to learn how to message young people. There was a young lady who was a spoken word person, and here's what she did. I forget her name, I'm sorry, but here's what she said. She said, the problem is you, meaning older folks, meaning me. You said, you say gargantuan, and we say big as shit. That's it. Develop the message so that you can reach the people. They will respond to you, and if you love them, you communicate with them no matter what. And I guarantee you, that ends the problem. People can be educated if they see that you are willing to love them.
Thank you. Everyone, thank you so much for your attentiveness. We are now on our last question. Really? We have jokes from the gallery. As a manager, when I'm interviewing people, my last question is always, given that we have so many qualified candidates, why should I hire you? So my question to all these people is, given that we have so many exceptional candidates, why should we vote for you? We are going to give each candidate 4 minutes, so hopefully you won't get beat, but you will get 4 minutes to answer this last question. Again, given that there are so many excellent candidates, why should we vote for you? We're going to start the answers with Mr. Garvin.
Thank you so much. And allow me to say thank you to the St. Andrews Dims and each and every one of you all for taking time out of your schedules and being here tonight. Let me tell you, for me, public service is an honor. For me, public service is a privilege. For me, I wake up each morning trying to figure out how can I make things better for those who are currently here and for those who are going to come behind me. I ran my first campaign when I was in the 6th grade. I ran for 6th grade senator. And I went on, I ran for 7th grade senator, I won that. I ran for governor of my middle school and ended up serving there as well. And throughout middle school and high school, throughout college, I've always found a way to serve. Because you see, holding positions and holding titles wasn't about me. It's never been about me. It's been about how can I make, back in middle school, how can I make my middle school better? In high school, how can I make my high school better? In college, when I was student government president for 2 years, how can I make my college campus better? and I became president of the local NAACP Youth Council. My question was, how can I make my community better? And I became president of the South Carolina NAACP Youth and College Division. At 20 years old, the question was, how can I make this state better? When I went down to Colleton County as a 21-year-old and taught school, 6th grade science in Waterboro, South Carolina, a rural community located on the I-95 corridor. The question was, how can I make life better for these students that God has entrusted me with on this day? When I came back home and ran for office and I saw things that I didn't like happening in 2018 in my community, I didn't complain about it. I got out there and I worked hard to make things better. So my life has been a story of, number one, beating the odds, and number two, making things better for those who are around me. That's been the story of my life. When I was 5 years old, I was diagnosed with a speech impediment. And it was then that my mother changed the trajectory of her career to become a speech therapist. She still serves to this day as a speech therapist. And I said to God, you have given me this voice. You have given me the ability to talk to folks. You have allowed my words to come out without a stutter or a stammer. And I will speak for, I will fight for, and I will lead my people. That's what God has given me the ability to be able to do. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here tonight. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve this community in the South Carolina House of Representatives. And allow me to say, this election is about the future. This election is about the future. Senator Darrell Jackson, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, was elected to the state senate when he was 34 years old. 34, I'm 31. And he has been there now for over 30 years. And he went from being the last ranked member to now the third ranked member. What does that mean for our community with longevity? That means that we have somebody at the Senate that can get resources into Richland County. That means that we have somebody who has institutional knowledge to be able to get things done within our community. And that's what I hope to be able to do in this role as a senator. I hope to be able to empower the people that sent me. Because at the end of the day, it's not about Kambrell Garvin. At the end of the day, it's not about how can I benefit. But I will still be that same, actually 10-year-old who started registering voters right here in this district, who couldn't vote, but who knew that there were too many folks who were unregistered, who needed to vote. I will be that same 10-year-old who will have those same bright and twinkling eyes, who will say, who will say, we can do this together. Thank you all for being here. I used all my time and I was trying to, and thank you all, and have a good night.
I yield. Okay. My grandmother used to always tell me, she was like, boy, if you could do it, you'd have done it. How long are you going to wait to do it? We've been waiting on somebody to come and fix the doorknob on the church for 30 years. We've been waiting on somebody to come and move hills and mountains on our roads. We've been waiting on somebody to call out Republicans like the Freedom Caucus that wasted Lexington, Richland County School District's money fighting over words that they don't even know and understand, Miss Debbie. It's very difficult for you to be able to see change when you are part of the system that you're trying to change. That's the definition of insanity. It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. How many times are we going to be told, Miss Alfreda, wait your turn, wait your turn. We don't have it for you, Brother Al. We don't got it for you, Sister Marvella. We don't got it for you, Regina. They called me a heretic. They said I was crazy. They called me ghetto. They called me everything that they could to try to demean the fact that I was the guy that was showing up to call those department figures at levels of government out for wayward spending. Why? All because I was meeting. I took the time to call the administrators. I took the time to call the directors. I took the time to call the accountants. I took the time to call the accounting firms from out of town that conveniently compose those accounting receipts. I was the guy that showed up with the receipts and said, hey, this little mark right here, where did that $10,000 go, Miss Regina? I have programs that need to be funded. Where was the money? They called me the debt agent for department heads at Richland County because every time I got ready to move mountains, every time I got ready to ask for money, every time I got ready to do something, they would conveniently get rid of that person. I said, why? How come every time we get ready to make progress in this arena, that person now moves and we got to train somebody else on what the expectation is of the community? It's very difficult to work and change a system when you're inside of the system. You have to be a fervent, diligent operator in the community, and that's what I have done. I have spent more than $175,000 since the pandemic of my own money. Had to borrow $50 from Tameika to go get some groceries. Am I lying? And y'all know food habit. But I was determined to save people because I had been to 23 funerals. When the shooting was happening on Broad River since 2018, every time the news media come, God bless you. But every time the news media would come out and report on a killing, I would come out and talk about we opening up a new business, we're going to do a red carpet, y'all coming? Because I had to continue to change the narrative to make people aware that we have a human condition, that we are human, that we are not defined by our situations, we are not defined by our circumstances, and that there are people, as Tameika even sat here and said, there are people that are working, that are doing good work, that don't get the credit, that are out here on the front lines, that are putting their lives at risk to save the very generation that Skip Holbrook, standing in Bethel AME Church in the month of July, said, we are losing. And why is it when we look at things that happened like just yesterday at the DSS, Miss Regina, where we have our children who are displaced and captured by the system and then moved to Alvin Glenn Detention Center instead of actually having a crisis counselor, who are feeding the prison population, the privatized industrial complex that makes it difficult for us as community people to create opportunities. You should have let me, because I am ready.
One of my favorite biblical passages is John 18:37. For this reason was I born. For this reason came I into the world, that I might testify to the truth. I've been speaking truth to power as long as I've known. Let me stop and say one thing. Ms. Joyce, I apologize to you. That was just my grandmother talking in my ear, says you shouldn't have did that to her. And I have to apologize to you, so please forgive me. Now, back to where it was. Okay. A lot of people, thank you. I was raised on face. A lot of people fail to realize that the job of the senator is not to be a senator. The job of the senator is to represent the people in his or her district. Now, what does it mean to represent? One is the informing function. That means when I sit at that table, everything I hear in those closed rooms, everything I hear is going to be reported to you almost in real time, because that's what I'm doing. The second thing means that what I'm supposed to do is I'm to watch for every single dollar of that pie that goes to any district and make sure that you get your share of it, dollar for dollar, in every single district. And the final thing is to make sure that I hold their feet to the fire. And what's that? A lot of people don't like me. Don't think I don't know it. A lot of people don't like me. A lot of people told me that I'm a bull in a china shop. I've been called by one television, one radio personality said I was an agitator. Another person said I'm an instigator. And I said I'm all of these things. But what I really am, ladies and gentlemen, is an irritant. I'm going to be there and you will scratch me. Why? Because I'm going to itch you to death until you scratch me. And here's what I want you to understand. And this is very, very important. I love my district. I was raised to believe that one, nobody's better than me, but two, I'm not better than anybody else. I was raised to believe that there is only one race, and that's the human race. So ladies and gentlemen who are here, ladies and gentlemen here may have taken something I said to be pro-black. Be sure it is, but it's not anti-white. And I will fight for everyone. If you're in that district, no, I'm not there to fight for District 42. No, I'm not there to fight for District 10. I'm there to fight for District 19. Now, what you know about me, and I'm going to get this to you in case anybody doesn't know, is that my biggest influence was George Elmore. Do any of you know who George Elmore was? George Elmore was the man who stood up in 1946 and said, "You will let us vote." Elmore versus Rice was the name of the lawsuit. And he was right here from Richmond County. And guess what he did? He made it so that you now can vote in the parliament. George Elmore. You know how George died? He died of poor. They ran him out of business. They closed him down. They cut off his lines of interest, and he died a pauper. I talked to his grandson. He died a pauper. But guess what? If that happens to me, I'll glow with a smile on my face, because guess what? The only reason I'm here is to speak truth to power. Send me, and I will fight for you. Every single day, in every single way, I will fight for you. And you will not have to worry about not being there, because you will be there. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. And thank you also to all the other candidates. And I want you all to know that if I wasn't running, I'd be honored to vote for anyone. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. I know there are a lot of things that you could be doing tonight, a lot of places you could be, but being here means a lot to all of us. To Mr. Juarez, Mr. Garvin, and to Mr. Cordero, thank you so much, because it takes a lot to offer yourself a public office. I don't think anyone up here is up here for them, but we all have different things that we bring to the table. I am standing in front of you because I am a public servant. When I first ran for office, I didn't expect to run for office. I never wanted to run for office. But I was a prosecutor in the state of South Carolina. I was Assistant Attorney General, and I was prosecuting domestic violence and sexual assault cases. I was writing legislation. I was helping get legislation passed to make sure that our families and our community were safer. As I was doing that, I saw the things that needed to change. And I'm one that, instead of complaining about things that need to change, I was always taught, you can be that change. Be the change you want to see. And so I ran for office, local elected office, because I wanted to make my community a better place. Over the years of serving this community, I have enjoyed being able to connect with citizens, take ideas that you have and get them implemented, making sure that we're learning from other places and bringing that back here and implementing them in our community. When I left office 2 years ago, I say I left elected office, but I never stopped serving. Actually, Ms. Karen, who has this beautiful building right here, last Thanksgiving, my family, before we had our meal, we sat up there in her other place and we served the public. Mr. Juarez talked about him DMing me, asking me for $50, and I sent him $50. Not because I expected in return, but because I saw somebody in need and I knew that I could do something to help. Now somebody else may ask for the $50 next week and I may not have it. But if I had it, I was going to give it. That's how I am with my time and my passion for this community. If I have it, I'm going to give it. If I can make a difference, I'm going to get up every single day and make sure I can do that. We're in a critical time in our state. As a mom of 3 kids, one now not in high school anymore, but the other 2 in public school here in South Carolina, I'm scared. I'm terrified. Every single day, we're reading about someone getting shot and killed. Every single day, someone at that state house is trying to pass laws and bills that affect our community when they've never been in our community. We need somebody who is going to show up every single day and fight for District 19. We need someone with experience, and I will tell you, don't be fooled that you have to have South Carolina State House legislative experience. The experience you need to have is experience of serving the community.
Amen.
Knowing how to get things done. being able to work with people and understanding that one day might be a defeat, but it doesn't defeat, you're not defeated. You get up the next day and you fight just as hard to make sure something else changes. If you elect me, that's what you will have at the State House. You will have someone getting up every single day, fighting for you, making sure that my experience as an attorney, as a domestic violence advocate, as a mental health advocate, as someone who is a mom with kids in public school, is up there fighting every single day for your family and mine. We have got to have somebody who can get things done and make sure that not only do we move forward, but that we understand that our state needs a fighter. We need someone who's going to stand up, show up, and speak up every single time that something is happening. Thank you, God bless, and have a great night.
Thank you so much. Can we give one last round of applause to all of our candidates? I would be remiss if I did not say a few thank you to some people for first of all, for being here. We have some elected officials here. Representative Jermaine Johnson is here. We also have Margaret Sumter from the South Carolina Black Council is with us. And so that I'm not leaving out anybody else, are there any other? Ivy Thick Ben, House District 79. Thank you. Also, thank you again to you. Thank you again to you for coming out. As a reminder to everyone, the election is on October 24th. Make sure you vote. Again, tell all of your friends, tell all of your best friends, tell everyone you know. This election is October 24th. Make sure you vote. I have to give one final thank you to a lady that was so instrumental in putting it together. She helped make, she ensured phone calls were made. She worked extremely hard with all of the candidates. She answered a zillion phone calls. She was Miss Grace Under Fire, and this event would not have been possible without the work of Debra Belton. Again, my name is Johnathan Kirkwood. I'm the co-chair of St. Andrews Dems. Do make sure that you sign up in the back if you've not already done so. And everybody, thank you again. Good night. Be safe.
Before you leave, everybody. Before you leave, please, let's give a hand to the master of ceremony.
Okay, with that, everyone be safe. God bless.